Christmas or Happy New Year's. I'm not really sure when this video is going up. It should be soon. Point is, I'm here to milk the algorithm for all it's worth because that last video did really well. I should also say 10k subscribers. I do have something special for that plan next week, I think. We'll see, so do tune in for that. Time's wasting, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start talking about the games, the first of which being Nine Souls. Nine Souls is a Metroidvania, although it's definitely on the more linear side, like Metroid Fusion. The two things that set it apart is one, the world, because it's self-described as Taopunk. Combines this usual cyberpunk feel with ancient Chinese myth and Taoist philosophy. The story is hard to explain and I will be glossing over things, but it follows this little cat here, Yi, who is one of the 10 souls. However, after being betrayed by his former compatriots, he takes it upon himself to get revenge. There's also a plague going on and there's themes of mortality and the value of life, but yada yada yada, that doesn't really matter right now. Because the second big thing that sets it apart is the parry. If Hollow Knight is Dark Souls but with bugs, then this game is Sekiro but with bugs. Because oh my god, you parry anything and everything and it is glorious. Future Fury interrupting his own video because he realized he's stupid. I don't know why he said this game is Sekiro with bugs. That nigga could not more clearly be a cat. I'm sorry, I'm dumb. Oh, and speaking of me being dumb, you remember that one game from the last video, The Use of Life? Guess what's not actually on sale during winter? That's once again, my bad. Eto. Bleh. Moving back to things that aren't my stupid mistakes, I've got to shout out Nine Souls' absolutely banger soundtrack. There are some wonderful parts of the OST, especially the boss themes. Moving on to another highly requested game that people wanted in the last video, but that I also already covered, we have Dust, an Elysian Tale. To begin, I gotta fuck with a few of you by making it clear that this is a retro game. It is nearly 15 years old at this point. I actually thought it came out near the beginning of the Xbox 360's lifespan, but after a quick Google, I can now say with confidence that the 360 is a retro console. Shit man, if the 3DS counts as a retro console at this point, then this thing certainly does. Anyways, the plot of this game concerns the amnesiac Dust as he travels with his pal Fidget to discover his past and why he has this magic sword. To be clear, this is a game I have never finished, despite owning it for well over a decade at this point. While I can't speak too much about the story, I can definitely speak too much about the gameplay, because it is great. It's a side-scrolling hack and slash with a wonderful combo system where you're encouraged to get that number as high as you possibly can. And to be fair, you can easily get it quite high. The game does have some Metroidvania elements where you gain abilities that help you traverse old places like a double jump and stuff like that. I think a large part of Dust's appeal is that it came around right when indie games were becoming a thing. Right when digital distribution became commonplace on the PS3, the Xbox, and PC. It's like Braid or Castle Crashers, one of those games you almost certainly saw on YouTube before you played it. So it holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts. Another game that got pointed out in the last video is Rivals of Aether. It's like Super Smash Bros. But furry. I have nothing else to say about this because I don't really like platform fighters. I like to play real fighting games. So Smash fans, if you would kindly take your seat at the back of the bus, we will move on. A game I'd super recommend you play is a puzzle game called Mercury Abbey. It was one of the finalists for Furry Game of the Year last year, and speaking of that, I really should get to making this year's version of that video. Ugh. This game is all about the struggling novelist Herod as he has to take care of his nephew Willie for the weekend. It's normal enough. Willie's parents are diplomats, so they do travel a lot, so he stays with his uncle often, but things get more complicated when they both end up staying at the sanatorium, Mercury Abbey. It doesn't take long for stranger things to happen. Things that go bump in the night, and a conspiracy that stretches way further back than anyone still alive. Or maybe anyone that should still be alive. Mercury Abbey is a puzzle game, and a pretty good one. The puzzles are nice and varied, and I do like how the game has an in-puzzle notes feature, that way you don't have to go back and forth to the key and to the puzzle when you can't remember the exact symbols. The game even makes good use of the fact that there are two protagonists. Sometimes you take control of Willie, sometimes you take control of Herod. Mercury Abbey is a really good game, and it's easy to see why it was one of the finalists for Furry Game of the Year last year. The next game we're gonna cover is another one of the finalists for Furry Game of the Year last year. Its name is Threefold Recital. You play as 3 characters, 1 the Wolf Trotna, 2 the Fox-Eye King, and finally the Snake Transia. The 3 haven't met up in a long time, but strangely enough, they all wind up involved in a strange case involving dragon ink. The game is slow to start, giving you an entire chapter with each of the characters on their own as they all get involved in their own separate ways. But the game really does flourish once you're given control of all of them at the same time, and you swap back between them to do puzzles. The real draw here is the story, and I've got to say, it was really good, one of the best I've read. It makes amazing use of player supposition, asking yourself what you really know about what's going on. One of my personal favorite parts, and this is just because I'm a stupid idiot who enjoys dumb jokes, is how a lot of the names are puns. We have the Toe family and their 2 sons, Pota and Toma, which sounds normal enough until you realize their names are Potato and Tomato. I'm telling you, Threefold Recital is literally a game that was made for me. Now let's get to this video's main feature, a game I've been streaming recently and might be streaming after this video goes up, it really depends, called Aethermancer. And Future Fear here reminding you to like and subscribe, I kinda forgot to say that somehow. I was actually on the fence about even considering this one a furry game at first, since monster catchers are always in this weird soft spot for furry games. For this one specifically, the monsters sure are furry, but considering like every NPC in this game is straight up anthro, then Aethermancer is defo a furry game, even if you don't play as one. In Aethermancer, you play as Syriux, a being known as an Aethermancer, hence the name, though this one in particular seems interested in taking his monsters inside and expanding an anomaly known as the Void to hopefully close it before it swallows the world. What got my attention enough to try this game was that it's a rare breed. It's a turn-based roguelike. And one that's not a fucking deck builder to boot. I know I've complained about them before, but I'm doing it again. There are too many goddamn roguelike deck builders. If I wanted to throw down a face down, I'd just play Master Duel. This game was made by Morai Games, who made Monster Sanctuary, which I know is super popular. I will say that I do think Aethermancer's graphics are a step up from Monster Sanctuary's. This game has some seriously beautiful pixel art to support it and all of the monsters. To explain the combat, it's all based around breaking your enemy's poise, which corresponds to a certain element or attacks in general. If you hit them enough times with the right element, it breaks their poise, not only stunning them, not only making them take increased damage, but it also gives you the option to turn them into a memento so you can use the monster yourself. The core gameplay loop is going from level to level, fighting wild monsters to give yourself EXP, and upon leveling up, they gain new skills and stats, which prepare you for the area boss. You're also given the ability to act first offensively before encounters to break poise before the battle even begins. Right now, the game has like 30 obtainable monsters across all of its levels, and they all feel materially different, which is really nice. In a similar vein to Hades and other roguelikes of that nature, you do have a currency that permanently carries over called Aether. You can use that to buy permanent upgrades from various merchants in the world, and while your monsters do mostly reset after runs, they do gain something called Worthiness, which acts as a permanent level up system. The game does have an expansive world and complicated lore that slowly gets revealed to you as you talk to the other key characters. I definitely have more I want to say about this game, to the point where I want to make a whole video about Aethermancer. I will tell you to keep in mind that this game is early access and that it does work well on Steam Deck. I played it there myself. I'm really excited to see how this game evolves because as it is right now, it's damn good. Speaking of turn-based roguelikes, the next game I'll cover will be one called Anomaly Collapse. Like I said, this game is a turn-based roguelike, though it differs from Aethermancer in the fact that this one is really sci-fi. And it's not just regular sci-fi like aliens and stuff, it's sci-fi in the SCP kind of sense. The game follows your choice of protagonists. They come from all different walks of life, like there's Glitch, a soldier for the ARA, the Anomaly Research Association, but there's also the lizard Soma, who can transform and has no idea who he is or what he's doing here, but shares the same goal of reaching the Library of Yore. The combat is what made this game stand out to me because it all takes place on this singular line, a grid of squares. Not only do you have to move into position for your moves, but some moves can actually hit more than one target, and some moves can actually control the flow of the battle, pushing back or pulling enemies. It's a unique mechanic that can be further enhanced with all unique conditions and obstacles that apply. Like there could be barrels of oil which you can set on fire, or maybe a gravity well that'll pull everyone and everything to it at the end of the turn. Rather than having a currency that carries over that you can spend on upgrades, the upgrades are tied to each character and tied to carrying out specific goals. This could be progress a certain amount with them as a leader, kill certain enemies, yada yada yada. It's honestly really good. It helps ensure that progression is properly tied to your skill at the game. The further you get, the more upgrades your character gets, and so on and so forth. I honestly wish more roguelikes went for this option rather than the standard currency. I did make a whole video about Anomaly Collapse a while back, so feel free to watch that if you want. The next game I want to talk about is one called Moonlight Pulse. It's a Metroidvania that stands out because instead of getting new moves, it's more like you get new characters. But wait a minute, there's something else, because the world you're playing in isn't just a world, it's a giant living creature, and the enemies you fight are parasites literally infecting your home. I must admit that I haven't played much of this game, I've been a very busy boy, but the characters you can get do play very differently. Some attack from up close and some attack from afar, there's even different movement options between them, like a glide or even a dash. This game is like they fully fleshed out that whole character swapping mechanic from Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, and the setting is so distinct it gives way for a lot of unique locales. It's hard to describe, but imagine if like everywhere was like inside Monstro from Kingdom Hearts. The game is also cheap as hell on Steam, sitting at just under $5, so go ahead and get it if you want. The next game we'll be talking about is a management sim called Bear and Breakfast. This game has you play as Hank, a bear who's a big fan of Gravity Falls going by the hat. Through a set of admittedly hilarious circumstances, Hank ends up being a manager of a series of properties in the middle of his forest. And thus, we get the gameplay, managing the various hotel properties, keeping guests happy, fed, all that yada yada yada. I'll admit, I'm not one for management sims, I just don't vibe with them, but even I can tell that this is a very well-made game. You have a lot of customization, not only the decorations, but also the floor plans, and then dressing Hank himself. And the world is super charming, telling the story of an area that has fallen on hard times after a forest fire and how Hank is literally bringing people back to the area. But then there's also like an ongoing plot in the background involving like gods and some shit. I don't know, it's very complicated. Though the game wasn't for me, I do distinctly remember it just for how charming it was. The characters are just so nice and memorable, like the raccoon that sells you stuff in exchange for garbage, or the park ranger who can just talk to bears for some reason. You know what? Fuck it, why not? Park rangers can just do that, I guess. It's also worth noting that the devs behind it do plan on making further updates, so now's not a bad time to buy it if you want to. And now, for the final game I'll talk about. It won't actually be one on sale, mostly because it's not even technically out yet, but it has a demo that covers all of Chapter 1, so it's kind of basically like an early access. This game, or at least Episode 1, is all about Bent, a delivery worker whose job sucks, but hey, it at least lets him provide for his little sister. But things get very complicated when he comes across a dead body and a monster that made it. What's really great about this game is its story, which is unsurprising considering it is a visual novel, but while Bent is the protagonist, you don't necessarily play as him. Rather, you play as this unnamed, unseen character who's reviewing records of the event, and it's through this unknown that we're given most of the lore. It creates this unique feeling where you don't know what's happening to Ben, but he knows even less. He's running in blind, walking into a landmine that you think is there, but it might not be. You have to be careful with your choices because this record can go wrong, and there is definitely more than one way to get Bent dead. There's also this really cool feature where you're able to go inside Bent's mind and mix and match emotions to create more responses to more choices. Despite there only being one short episode out, this game was a lot of fun, and I'd super recommend you try it for yourselves. It's free and on Steam, so why not? Of course, we still have to do our Patreon shoutouts, so shout out to Wolfrix, McCoydes, Garen LaFay, Tron, and Zora Chow, the Holy Knights of the New Knights. Thank you all for watching. Do be sure to like and subscribe. As always, this is your host Furry, signing out.